What's up, guys? It's NameCoyote here, and today I've got something amazing planned. Just kidding, we're playing Pikmin 2. Roasted. But on a serious note, I got a tip from a friend on the long and prosperous Coyote family tree, and it gave me an interesting idea. Uncle Coyote told me that he can only manage to play Pikmin 2 while sacrificing his poisonous white Pikmin to the enemies. So it's time to find out how much of a punch these white Pikmin really pack by beating Pikmin 2 while only sacrificing white Pikmin. Also, I'm using the Wii version because it was cheaper. Don't judge my cost efficiency. So, here we go, deleting a random save file of hard work. Let's start the challenge with some boring rules. So, for any of you who don't know, white Pikmin in their very nature are toxic to ingest. So, if a white Pikmin is ever eaten by any enemy, they will take some poison damage. And that's what we'll be depending on for this entire playthrough here. So basically, we can only damage enemies if they eat one of our white Pikmin, and we'll be finding out exactly how many treasures we can grab with this incredibly weird method. Let's get started, and I'm gonna ask you to join the Discord server in the description so that you can vote on the next Pikmin challenges and so much more. Because Pikmin 2 is an incredibly long game, this might take multiple parts, so all those parts will be linked in the description. But obviously you're not going to read the description, so, you know, let's just get started. But guess what? There is a tutorial level. Why can't we ever go through a game without having to explain stuff? Anyway, I paused for several minutes trying to figure out a glitch, but I think no matter which way you slice this, you gotta kill this little Bulborb right here. And obviously, since we don't have white Pikmin yet, we have to cheat. So 1 minute in, and we've already cheated. Then of course we have to mash through some unnecessary dialogue from the talking ship. And then we can switch to Louie, and please, dear, just stop talking. Anyway, with Louie we find the red onion, and wait a second, I vaguely remember not caring about the tutorial level, because it's the exact same in every playthrough. Fast forward to the end of day 1, and before we move on, I'd like to address something. I think that this is the only required kill in the entire game, so we won't be killing any more enemies. At least, we won't be directly killing any enemies, if you know what I mean. There's a lot of what did I just do with my tongue? There's a lot of methods to killing enemies that are a little bit convoluted, and we might just wind up using some of those methods to see exactly how many treasures we can grab while not damaging any enemy with our fist or our other Pikmin. Also, any accidents are automatically forgiven unless they have some very useful side effects. With that out of the way, let's see how day 2 treats us. Day 2 is just another tutorial day. I take the time to gather up the necessary Pikmin to take this bag out of the way, and on the other side we find a few Bulborbs. Normally we'd get the utter scrap treasure in this area, but with no way to defeat the Bulborbs, it's just better if we wait. Making our way past this wall, we find our first cave. The Emergence Cave usually isn't very difficult, but seeing as at this point in the run I had no idea what I was doing, I just throw all my Pikmin at the treasures, and I'm sure absolutely none got eaten. Moving on to level 2, we get ourselves the camera hogs themselves, the purple Pikmin. I say this because white Pikmin never truly get the appreciation that they deserve, because purple Pikmin always take the glory and just kill everything. But we aren't like that. We recognize sacrifice and honor, no matter how much you look like a plum. So let's just pretend the purple Pikmin aren't vital to us getting the treasure that unlocks a new area. Just move on. Don't know why I took such a long breath there. It's 3 words. 4 words. We leave the cave with 760 Pokos. Side note, don't look up Pokos. I wound up going down a rabbit hole that led me to a Reddit post from someone who knows way too much about Pikmin. Anyway, it's day 3 and the wood has been awakened from the last game where it was known as the Forest of Hope. Today also marks the only occasion where the ship is actually useful, although if I'd paid attention to the controls as stated earlier, this would be useless. I guess there's just a random second tutorial for anyone who thinks they're better than they are. We break down a wall and run into our first cloaking Burrownit, but seriously, these guys should enlist for the Imperial Army because they have horrible aim. You'll see later. Anyway, required progression is required, so unfortunately we do not have enough Pikmin to drop this bag and make our way to the White Flower Garden, so it's time to go to the Hole of Beasts. Despite the name, the Hole of Beasts has like 0 beasts. I get viciously attacked by a few female sheargrubs, and thus I decide to immediately retreat. I grab some purple Pikmin on sub-level 2, and then Louie gets fried. Even though that last detail is irrelevant, I decide to leave the Hole of Beasts anyway and just wait for white Pikmin. Back on the surface, see what I mean? I push down the bag with my newly acquired purples and head into the White Flower Garden. On the first floor oh my god, no, sheargrubs, alright, nope. I go into the level 2, and the only enemies there are blowhogs, so we gather up all the treasures there and head down to level 3. And my friends, we finally receive the fated white Pikmin, who apparently make metal beeping noises and vaguely expel poison even though they don't have mouths, or noses for that matter. I grab all 15 white Pikmin possible and pick up the duct tape that's hidden below the surface. Sub-level 4 features a bunch of different treasures, but literally 0 enemies, so the true power of the white Pikmin can now be demonstrated on the truest of formidable opponents, the burrowing Snagret. And truthfully, I'm hyping it up a little too much, because if we're being honest, this is really just like the Snagret pulling up to McDonald's and getting like a radish on his burger, and nothing against people who like radishes, but like, this is a horrible analogy. Now, unfortunately, the Snagret does not die with 1 white Pikmin down. In fact, we start off with the sacrifice of 3, and the Snagret just takes it. It's not like it did a lot of damage either. In the end, we sacrifice a whole 13 Pikmin. Thankfully, our efforts are rewarded with the peak of sound design. Oh, yeah, and we also get a sleeping bag. Aren't we all so glad that this was put into the game? With the newfound ability to faint on command, we leave the White Flower Garden with a little more than 1/10 of the debt repaid. Unfortunately, we literally only have 28 Pikmin, so time to collect some pellets! Content. Additionally, I figure out that sacrificing a white Pikmin to a dwarf Bulborb is a net gain of 2 Pikmin. At this point, I'll take anything. So that was fun, having white Pikmin for about 10 seconds. After using all 15 of my little soldiers, we take a trip back to the Flower Garden to restock. And this is going to become a trip that we'll all become well acquainted with by the time this video is over. And just like the last time, I just skipped the first 2 sub-levels, grabbed the 15 white Pikmin available, and hit the escape button. Actually, in this specific scenario, I dropped by the reborn Snagret for a visit first. Figured I'd just thank him for giving me his most prized possession. We come back to the Awakening Wood, grab some pellets and this random buried treasure, and it's the end of day something. And in this game, they don't even pretend that the night is dangerous. They just give us an arbitrary time limit and we follow it. 1 dwarf Bulborb? Seriously? Oh, wait, never mind, it's 2. It's day 4 and ideally we sacrifice as few Pikmin as possible. Luckily, all enemies are stupid, so I don't even know why I mentioned that. We head right past them and dive into the Hole of Beasts. Again, nothing overly exciting happens here, especially on the first level. Our red Pikmin are just too fast for the slow Sheargrubs to catch up with. They should honestly be thanking me for not killing them. Sub-level 2 exists for some reason, and then sub-level 3 just has fire hazards that can be dealt with easily. We grab both treasures on level and move to level 4. Level 4 features the Luck Wafer, which our white Pikmin grab, avoiding the Bulborb, and because I'm unintelligent, I completely forgot that we need to kill the Bulborb for a treasure anyway. So, yeah, I don't go back for that. And now we've come to the boss floor. And look at this sleeping, helpless little demon that we can just absolutely oh wait, that's right, we can only kill things with white Pikmin. And there is literally no way to wake this thing up. You can literally walk through it, and the Empress Bulblax is just too sleepy. My friends, this boss is poison-proof, which yes, means that we will not have a treasure detector for this entire run. Luckily, I have my own form of treasure detector that actually gives me the name, cost, and exact location of every item. I call it Wikipedia. And clearly, I did not use it on the previous level because I completely missed a treasure! But anyway, I leave the Empress Bulblax to sleep in her cave and exit the Hole of Beasts. And I literally think I killed 0 beasts in that visit, so you might want to consider a name change. Back on the surface, I attempt to grab the Sunseed Berry from under this Bulborb's nose, but he wakes up and just downs 2 white Pikmin. Turns out that's not good for your health, so we wind up gaining a few Pikmin from that little accident, and of course, get ourselves a treasure, and oh my god! Now I understand why there's a food shortage on Kopai. A single juice costs 170 Pokos. That's a single day's meal! Can't imagine the shipping and labor costs for that. Needless to say, the arbitrary number generators assigned to value each treasure just completely off in every way. Anyway, though, that puts us right above the 20% mark for our debt. I then take a trip over to this wall, and you have no idea how infuriating this is. I mean, you guys see it takes like half the day to destroy this single wall. I think poison walls are probably my least favorite part of this game, and I'll just say, there's not a lot of this game that is my favorite. Moving on, I honestly can't explain what I'm doing here. These flowers have never fooled me before, but now because I'm recording, I obviously make a fool of myself. Creeping chrysanthemums aside, we now have access to the second half of the globe. I spend the rest of the day recovering it, and we end off day 4 on a high note. You notice how I dropped my pitch there instead of making it a high note? Oh yeah, and we have better enjoyed our time with the purples, because that's pretty much the last time we're ever gonna see them. Just shoving them in the engine and moving on. No more spotlight for you. With the purples properly shunned for their crimes of existing, we get ourselves a new center of attention. And while my transition to day 5 is impeccable, we actually need to put forth some effort to grab the yellow Pikmin. With the perplexing pool now unlocked, I immediately restart the day because this game is very well polished. Restarting the day, we have some fun with core game mechanics, and the last thing between us and yellow Pikmin is fiery Bullblacks. I gotta be honest here, I'm confident that the Bullblacks could eat white Pikmin if I gave them the chance, but I didn't. The Bullblacks may look like he's blocking a major path, but this area with the yellow onion is actually completely self-sufficient. So I spent some time stealthily taking down the wall behind the Bullblacks and enter the yellows. I probably don't need to go over the exact specifics of yellow Pikmin, but all you should know is that once we have yellow Pikmin, the entire map has basically become available. Blue Pikmin aren't that far away, and while I can't get them today, we'll definitely be looking into that tomorrow. Anyway, we gather up some yellow Pikmin, have enormous trouble with the swooping snitch bug, and it's now time for the Citadel of Spiders. Sub-level 1 is nothing too exciting. We wind up losing a few white Pikmin to the various bugs on the level, but we grab the tomato all the same. Sub-level 2 is the opposite of fun. Yellow Wollywogs can't crush other enemies like I think they can in Pikmin 3, so that's out of the question, and I don't know what to say. Just grab the treasure before the enemies can kill too many of my Pikmin. This sub-level was a pain, and so let's not dwell on it, though I should mention that we obviously missed a treasure hidden inside one of the Wollywogs, since Wollywogs don't eat Pikmin, and thus cannot be poisoned. Sub-level 3 is packed to the brim with electric enemies, but yellow Pikmin can't be harmed by them, so we grab the patience tester easily enough, aside from the trouble I had with the swooping snitch bug. Like, seriously, these guys never go away. They are a constant form of stress for me. Then the memorial shell is all the same. Next up is sub-level 4, and we sacrifice a few Pikmin to the Crawmads and water dumples here to get all the treasure on that floor, including the one hidden inside the Hermit Crawmad, and oh boy, am I glad I did all that for 10 Pokos. It's time for the final floor, and we grab the Regal Diamond first thing, and this is actually all we can do on this level. You think that we can take on the beady Longlegs, but he doesn't eat Pikmin, so we can't. It's all good though, because we're only missing out on the key, which is completely useless. Normally it would unlock challenge mode, but seeing as that does us no use here, it doesn't really matter. Most likely the worst boss treasure in the game, and that's why it's so fitting that it goes to the beady Longlegs. With the Citadel of Spiders over, we're just below 30% of our debt being repaid. As a final act of the day, I pull this Vlasic lid off its perch so that it's readily available for when we come back. But that day will not be today, because it's day 6 and it's time to get blue Pikmin. Blue Pikmin are simply hiding behind this electric gate in the Awakening Wood, and so they're fairly easy to obtain. I clear out the path to the blue onion with the last of my white Pikmin, resulting in a pretty good Pikmin yield for the rest of the colors. After acquiring our blue Pikmin, we have to be careful not to accidentally kill the Wogpoles nearby, but they're practically impossible to kill when you're trying to, so it's not really a problem there. I grabbed the Mario paint from the other side of the pond and whatever this thing is to end the day off. Not a very exciting day, but we have obtained the freedom to do whatever we want now, since no obstacle is unbeatable, so a pretty important day nonetheless. It's day 7 and I decide to stop once again at the Awakening Wood. I restock on white Pikmin at the Flower Garden, and this is when I realize that I haven't actually finished this cave yet. If you remember, I skipped the first level because I didn't have white Pikmin, so we're actually back now to finish it off. On floor 1, I distract the sheer grubs as the Pikmin pass with the only treasure. I once again stock up on white Pikmin, and now we've actually completed the White Flower Garden. This cave is entirely possible while only using the poison. Then I clear the path behind the Flower Garden, grab the dice, and start collecting some Ultra Bitter Spray. Ultra Bitter Spray, when used, will essentially freeze targeted enemies for a short period of time. Now, that's not going to give us any ability to kill them, but it is going to mean that grabbing treasures that are positioned near enemies suddenly becomes a whole lot less costly. If we're going to use this effectively, we're going to need a lot of it, and for right now, we just don't have that time. You guys can figure out, right? Instead, I opt to drop into the Bullblack's kingdom. Starting off on sub-level 1, there's only a single treasure here. It just so happens that it's hidden inside an orange Bulborb, and yay, we guessed wrong and killed the wrong one. Hiding the pain from that failure, the second one yields the Crystal Clover, which we carry back rather easily. Sub-level 2, and I'm just gonna skip sub-level 2, okay? We get the treasure, and it's on to sub-level 3. Sub-level 3, and there's a white candy pop bud. Sorry, ivory, because that matters. So anyway, I grab what white Pikmin I can, and pretty easily obtain the treasure on this level with relative ease. That's called irony, boys and girls. Anyway, we find out that fossil Pokemon are worthless, and it's on to sub-level 4, and that is 3 levels in a row of the Bulblax Kingdom that have 0 Bulborbs or Bulblaxes of any kind. These caves need some serious name adjustments. Sub-level 4 is, instead, full of a bunch of anode beetles, which are harmless to yellow Pikmin. The iridescent glint beetle pops up, and to be honest, it didn't even occur to me that we could potentially be breaking the rules by hitting this guy and dropping his treasure, but, I mean, he doesn't have a health bar, he doesn't die, and I did it anyway, and there's no way to change that, so I'm gonna say this doesn't break any rules. With that being said, I grab the treasure he gives us, and the other treasure is hidden inside a Wollywog, so it's time to move on to sub-level 5. And this level actually introduces a number of new things to us. This level introduces us to traps, probably the most un-Pikmin idea in this Pikmin game, and there are a lot of questionable design choices in this Pikmin game. Now, as you can tell, traps aren't my favorite, but it does give us a slight advantage, at least on this sub-level. Because a number of the enemies can be taken out using the falling bomb rocks, including the orange Bulborb that would have otherwise been a pain to grab the treasure from under, with this simple strategy, the Anxious Sprout is ours for the taking. Sub-level 6, and check out these descriptions. Loaded, critters, alcove, vanquished, reconnaissance? Whoever wrote this section of the wiki knew how to use a thesaurus effectively. Anyway, thesaurus jokes aside. Why did I write thesaurus twice in the script? I can't even say that word correctly. Anyway, the Colossal Fossil is grabbed easily because there's basically nothing guarding it. Besides, I literally hate traps so much. I, yet again, guessed wrong on which orange Bulborb holds the treasure, so depression, but killing the second Bulborb doesn't take much effort either, although it does waste quite a few Pikmin. Sub-level 7, and it's time for a real boss fight. Well, if I say boss fight, like, this is gonna be intense. No, we just sacrificed 7 white Pikmin, and the Emperor Bulblax is down for the count. And this means that we've just received the Scorch Guard, which will protect our captains from any and all fire damage. With this newfound ability, we can manage to grab the final treasure on this level, and that's the Bulblax Kingdom completed. And while we didn't manage to 100% the cave, this puts us right below the 50% debt completion mark, and with that, I really hate Wollywogs. Day 8, and we're back in the perplexing pool to grab the Vlasic lid. Obviously, reds are immune fire, so there's basically no danger here. I then also grab whatever this thing is, and the rest of the day is entirely wasted. I'm not even kidding. I mean, I literally do nothing. I can't figure out how to get this onion back to base for like several minutes, and then I don't even wind up retrieving it. And unfortunately, I'm gonna wrap it up right here. This is already a pretty long video as it is, and with Pikmin 2 being a really long game, I thought I'd just split this video up. We're nearing the halfway point, so next time we'll finish off the debt. Side note, this decision was voted on by my Discord server, and they collectively decided that splitting the series into a few different parts would just be the best idea. So join the Discord server if you've wanted to make a different decision. Make sure you stay tuned for the rest of this challenge because I will be making it at some point, for sure. But that is all for now, so I thank you all so much for watching, and I can't wait to see you all in the next one. This is my longest script yet, and we're not even halfway done with the game. We're not even a quarter of the way done with the game. Like, just repaying the debt already took me upwards of 10 hours. So I really hope getting all these treasures does not take another 20. Why is this game so long?